Alrighty, so first of all, happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and certainly hope you all have a great Thanksgiving. But today we are going to do the conference final preview, and we're going to do both of them on this Thanksgiving night, starting off with the Eastern Conference final in this video, and then in the next video, I'll do the Western Conference final. And so far in terms of this playoff, there's no doubt that chaos is the name of the game. And in the East, it has been just absolutely chaotic to see how you usually do not see a matchup this deep into the playoffs where it's a 4v7 matchup. Heck, you rarely see a 7 seed made it to the conference final. The last time we saw a 7 seed made it to the conference final was Real Salt Lake. And there was actually a possibility where we could even see even more chaotic conference final where it would have been the Red Bulls potentially could have hosted the game against Atlanta United, and we would have seen a 7v9 conference final matchup, which I think that is the lowest seed we have ever seen in a conference final matchup. But alas, obviously this matchup is Orlando City versus the New York Red Bulls. So Orlando, this is the first time that they made it to this stage. They finally defeat the narrative that they can't get past the second round, and they found themselves in new territory, and they're facing against a New York Red Bull side that it's hard to believe that this is a team that everyone one thought that they look like they're dooming and gloom heading into the playoffs with the way how they've been playing heading into the playoffs, not being very good whatsoever, and yet all they did is to upset against the defending MLS Cup champion, and then knock off their biggest rival in the conference semifinal as well. And the usual that's so metro moment that we talk about the New York Red Bulls in the playoffs, for whatever reason it just have not happened so far. And I'm not saying that it might not happen at all. I mean, obviously if you're a Red Bulls fan, you would hope that that is the case. Maybe finally for once the MLS gods and the soccer gods are going to smile on them, because if there's one team that has been through a lot of brutal playoff fertility, it's got to be the New York Red Bulls with how much playoff fertility. And that again, that's so metro kind of term was really invented of the legacy of failure that this team has had. But seems like that could be vanquished in this game against a team that is also looking to make it to MLS Cup for the very first time. Now, this is a 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific start. Obviously, the Western Conference Final will follow that. It's only in a 2.5 hour window, which I feel like that's a little short for a conference final, especially when you do it back to back. Because there's a chance if this game runs long, I might have a situation where I might actually have to watch both of the conference final at the same time as well. And we've seen before when these playoff games has happened, especially if it goes to extra time or it goes to PKs, it's going to be longer than 2.5 hours. So I'm kind of surprised that the league decided not to separate it in a 3 hour window. Though again, the playoff scheduling at times this season has been kind of baffling at time. I mean, the conference semifinal was kind of weird to have one that starts around like 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, and then there's another one that doesn't happen for another 5 hours. Now, in terms of the all-time meeting, it's pretty close, 10-3 and 9 in terms of the all-time meeting. The last five head-to-head meeting, it was the Red Bulls winning 1-0 against Orlando City. Then it was a 1-1 draw between both of these teams. Then Orlando won 3-0 on the road against the Red Bulls before Orlando winning 1-0 against the Red Bulls. And then Orlando won 1-0 against the New York Red Bulls on the road. So, the Red Bulls definitely this season, they seems like they figure out Orlando City a bit. The last time it wasn't relatively successful, but either way, in terms of the all-time meeting, it's relatively close. Now in the last round and in the conference semifinal for Orlando City, they won 1-0 against Atlanta United in a game where they definitely deserve to win. Even though I know Atlanta, that there's been the big Cinderella story this season, but overall Orlando was pretty dominant in that game, and probably could have won by more than the one goal in that game against Atlanta. Whereas for the New York Red Bulls, obviously they won 2-0 against their hated rival NYCFC, their crosstown rival that is. And the formula for that win is just score early and basically hold on for the rest of the game, and that's pretty much enough for this team to move on into the conference final. Now, three key points coming into the Eastern Conference final. This game it's pretty easy to see what could happen in terms of tactically. it's obvious that Orlando City is going to dominate the possession for the last couple of games, and really throughout these playoffs for Orlando City. The four game that they play in the playoffs, three of them they have more of the possession compared to the opposition, and that's kind of interesting because Orlando City, you would think that this is a team that at time don't want to have the ball and likes to play on the transitional. That's kind of what makes this team seems to do well on the road, but so far they've been kind of the more the protagonists, and part of that is kind of forced because when they're playing at home, Oscar Pereira team is going to be the protagonist. They're going to be the team that is going to try to break teams down, and at times they actually have been pretty successful in terms of doing it. Though again, the struggle for Orlando City this season is still goal scoring, and I'll talk about in just a bit why that is the case. But for the Red Bulls, again, I think they're playing their usual energy drink soccer kind of style. This is a Red Bulls team that left to press. Like this is a team that they're gonna press you to death. We saw that in the Hudson River Derby. NYCFC didn't really adjust it very well. Orlando City is gonna have to do so. They know that they can't just play out of the back. And by the way, defensively, well, this playoffs it's been a pretty strong point. There's been times where Orlando City has shown vulnerability on the defensive front. So yeah, you simply cannot just pass the ball around the back when you win it because you know what the Red Bulls are going to do. You know they're going to be hounding on you and pressing on you from the front foot, and that it's really up to Orlando City to realize that yeah they need to get rid of the ball and maybe even play it long and play it over the top of the press as well, because the formula to face against the Red Bulls is that if you can get past the initial press, then there's a chance where you can create chances because the Red Bulls are going to leave a lot of space at the back because of the pressing style that they likes to do. Now, the second key point for this game is who can show their clinical finishing that's been lacking for both team. And again, as I said about Orlando City, despite the fact that this playoffs they have shown that they can create chances, finishing chances has been a big problem for this Orlando City side. And that last game against Atlanta United is another great example of it, especially in the first half. They should have been up 1 or 2 or even 3-0 after first half against Atlanta. They created a lot of good chances, but finishing has just not been there for this team. And it's kind of odd to see because when you look at this team, they have a lot of good firepower on this team. You got Falco Torres, Romero Enrique, even the big Duncan McGuire coming off the bench. But most of these guys haven't really been able to find that clinical finishing that's been sorely lacking for Orlando City in this playoffs. Now for the New York Red Bulls, obviously we know about their problem when it comes to their finishing. Although what's kind of odd for the Red Bulls is that I really think that besides the game that the first game against Columbus, where they kind of show that problem that they had pretty much for the majority of the second half of the season of dropping points because of the lack of finishing. There's a team that has been a little bit more clinical lately in terms of finishing, and some of these guys that has been just absolutely snake bitten in front of goal, like Dante Vanzier, for example. Yeah, he's now scoring goals. It feels like Dante Vanzier might start to channel his inner Darren Espria. You know how Darren Espria, a guy that it feels like he's just not allowed to score goals in the regular season, but when October comes or when playoff time comes, when playoff Darren is gonna really show out and really become the character for the Portland Timbers that time. It feels like Dante Vanzier is starting to follow that formula. I mean, this is a guy that just been absolutely snake bitten for most part of the regular season, especially in the second half of the regular season, and all of a sudden he's scoring goals in these playoffs. He has now got 3 goals so far in the playoffs, which you would have not expected that would be the case. Knowing how his run of form in terms of goal scoring heading into the playoffs. But yeah, obviously the clinical finishing, that's going to be something that I think both team will want to do, and certainly I would give the edge over the Red Bulls because they actually have done a little better in the playoffs. And imagine me saying that heading into the playoffs, that I would give them the edge in terms of clinical finishing compared to the other team, because again, Orlando has been very wasteful in front of goal, and this is something that they can't simply keep doing and get away with like they did in the last couple of games. And then of course, lastly, the big key points for both of these teams is that we are gonna see a team make it to MLS Cup out of the East that not only were not expected to make it, but certainly have not made their get in a very long time. For one team, it's gonna be the first time to do so. Orlando City looking to do so. And again, I even said before how the pressure is definitely on for them to be the team to make it. And as much as you would think that this is still a successful season because Orlando City finally defeat that narrative of not making it past the second round. You got to say that with the way that some of the best team in the East are now out of the playoffs, this has to be the chance for them to make it to the final. And although as I'll talk about in the West and how I know there are already some people that have saying that whoever wins the Western Conference final is probably going to win the MLS Cup because the West seems like those teams compared to these two teams that's playing the East are much stronger. You never know. Again, in a cup final that like that, you just have to play the game. You just got to get to that stage because anything can happen. We have seen upset before in MLS Cup final as well. So yeah, we'll see whether or not if Orlando City can make it for the first time ever. Will the Red Bulls make it for the first time since 2008? It's hard to believe it's been that long since the New York Red Bulls made it to MLS Cup. And for a team that, again, you know, depending on how you see it, if you're a Red Bulls fan, I mean, do you consider this still be a successful season, even if they suffer that so metro moment, and even if they falter in the conference final like they did in 2019? I think so, in my opinion. Consider again, this is a team that heading into playoffs, you would have never expected this team would be the team that could go this deep. I mean, for Orlando City, I think people were kind of expecting that, though. They need to show that they can beat the best of the best, and in some way they kind of didn't need to because the best of the best knocked themselves out because of the crazy upsets that's happened in the East. But really, for the Red Bulls, again, nobody expected them to be in this stage. It feels like everything has to fall into them, and they have to be perfect and not go through their usual that's so metro kind of moment in the playoffs. And so far, it's been that case. And yeah, again, it should be a very interesting conference final. I always love a conference final when it's between two teams that are clearly considered maybe be an underdog heading into this, and two that really are not expected to be the team representing the East out of MLS Cup this year. But we'll see who, of course, will win this after the 90 minutes, and also we will definitely know what's going to be the matchup in this year edition of MLS Cup by the end of Saturday night as well. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.